Please put your hands together for Shanya Luther. About 10 years ago, I was in a Home Depot one Saturday morning with my partner at the time, along with about 200 other suburban DIYers. In our cart, we had 3 panels of that new prefab white picket fencing, a large square of AstroTurf. We had about 7 feet of chain and some other odds and ends like sandpaper and one of those car washing mitts with the little nubby things on it. When we got up to the cash register, the lovely older looking lady in her orange apron asked us, "So, what are you two working on today?" But neither one of us knew exactly how to tell her that we were making a sensual petting zoo for our first sex party. Like you do. Yeah, our first sex party. Well, sexy party. It was this great party put on every spring by this sassy lady in our ecstatic dance community called an Erotic Ball. And neither one of us had ever been to that kind of party. And we were really curious, what happens at an erotic ball? So, when she put out a call asking for volunteers to create some kind of booth, to have some kind of sexy activity in it, that's when we came up with our great idea for a sensual petting zoo. The whole idea sounded completely exhilarating and utterly terrifying at the same time. You need to understand that at that point in my life, I hadn't exactly had the best experience of my sexuality. First of all, I was raised going to church every Sunday and taught to be a good girl and to dress properly. Secondly, I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And on top of all of that, there had been plenty of sexy situations where I hadn't managed to find my voice because I thought that somehow I needed to be nice or not hurt someone's feelings. So I wasn't able to find my voice to say what I wanted or what I didn't want. So by the time I was in my 30s, I decided I was done with all of that. And I was bound and determined to explore my desires and my pleasure. So, Erotic Ball it was. After shopping, we headed over to where the ball was going to be held. It's this beautiful dance hall with wood floors and warm lighting. And we needed to get our little sensual petting zoo all set up. So we created kind of a grassy pen by putting out the AstroTurf and surrounding it with the white picket fencing. And then we put a massage table in the middle. And then we had all of our little toys. We had some fur mitts and some feathers. We had a wooden spoon and a riding crop. And of course, we had all of our other goodies from Home Depot. So the idea was that people would come to our booth and we would ask them what kind of petting they would enjoy, and then we would help them have a lovely sensual experience. And because we were in charge of the booth, I knew that I never had to do anything that I wasn't comfortable with. So after setting up, I wanted to go see what the other booths were doing. There was in one corner a stripper pole, and in another corner there was body painting. There was a sexy photo booth, and there was a rope bondage demonstration. I was completely mesmerized. There were even some talent acts, like there was a group of guys who were doing a full Monty routine, and there was a woman who did a partial striptease with day-glow poi. There was even a naughty barber who would tidy up your tender bits with a straight razor. Oh yeah, needless to say, this Dorothy was not in Kansas anymore. And while a lot of it scared me, a lot of it was a little tantalizing too. I found myself surprised that I kind of wanted to try some of those things. So, finally, it came time for us to get into our outfits for the night. I really pushed myself to wear something sexy. So, I ended up in this long, sort of see-through negligee with a classic satin bra and panty set underneath. It was really edgy for me. Of course, by the time everybody else showed up, I practically felt like I was in a nun's habit. There was more lace and leather and latex than I had ever seen in my entire life. And that wasn't all. From across the room, I couldn't help but notice this one guy. He was so tall and bare-chested and had washboard abs. But he was also wearing furry knee-length pants with a tail, a full set of antlers on his head, and 4-inch hooves on his feet. He looked like one of those mythical Greek gods that was part human, part deer or goat or something. All I could think to myself was, whoa, I cannot handle all of that. And wouldn't you know it, a minute later, that guy locked eyes with me and sauntered on over to our booth to find out what we were doing. I managed to somehow explain what we were doing and mustered up the courage to ask him, so, what kind of petting would you like this evening? While gesturing to the array of toys that we had laid out. I felt very proud of myself. This was his reply. What if I just want to pet you? Oh my God. Oh my God. No. This wasn't in my script. It never occurred to me that somebody was going to want to pet me. Holy cow. I could feel the panic welling up inside of me. I didn't know whether I wanted that or didn't want that. All I knew was that this didn't fit into my plan for my first sex party. While I was trying to figure out in my head whether or not this request was against the rules of our booth, oh yeah, I was. My partner gracefully asked our guest for a moment to confer with me. He took me aside and he smiled at me and he said, you know, babe, this could be really good for you. Remember, you never have to do anything you don't want to. Right. Oh, right. I'm here on a mission to explore my desires, and I don't even know what those are. And I need to be careful not to do something for somebody else just to be nice. So the real question became, do I want this mythical, chiseled, Greek god fawn man to pet me? Why, yes. Yes, I think I do. And then my partner offered to join in on our petting session to help protect my boundaries. I loved hearing that. I loved the idea that I was going to have my own kind of sex party hall monitor. I loved that he was going to be there to help me feel safe. I loved that I was going to get to ask for what I wanted and know that the experience wouldn't go beyond that. That was such a turn on. What came next was so blissful. We negotiated all of my boundaries, like everybody's clothes stay on and nobody's touching any genitals. And then I got to talk about what I wanted, what would feel good to me. And I had 2 delicious men eager to give me what I was asking for. I couldn't believe it. I was really starting to like how this was turning out. And after they'd been massaging me for a few minutes, some other people asked to join in. At one point, I had 6 pairs of hands on me all at one time, rubbing me, caressing me, asking what more they could do for me. I never in my wildest dreams imagined myself doing this. But I also felt like kind of a little sexy princess. I could get used to this. At one point, I even closed my eyes. And I realized that I had been so worried that I wouldn't find my voice to ask for what I wanted, or that somebody would do something to me that I wasn't approving of or didn't consent to, or that I would do something just to be nice for somebody else. But that wasn't how it was at all. Everyone in our little grassy pen wanted to honor my boundaries and offer me pleasure. I was so excited, and I was exploring my desires, and I felt safe. In fact, I felt so safe that at one point, I reached my hands up over my head and slipped them through the white picket fencing just to give myself a little bit of a sensation of being restrained. I was so proud of myself. Right then, somebody put something in my hands. My brain was so blissed out that I couldn't really even figure out what it was. But as I opened my eyes and looked up and saw a man that I didn't know looking down at me and smiling, I realized those were his testicles. I immediately pulled my hands away and told him I was not okay with that. Thank you. I was so stunned. I could not believe that this was happening. I thought, I have to be mistaken. But I wasn't mistaken. And in that moment, all of my feelings of safety were completely shattered. And all of the trust that I had that my boundaries would be honored was obliterated. I somehow managed to gracefully exit my petting session while explaining to my partner what had just happened. We were both completely outraged. I mean, after all, the rules of the party were absolutely clear. You had to have consent to interact with anyone. So I went to go and find the woman who ran that party to report that guy. When I found her and told her what had happened, she was appropriately appalled at his behavior. But what she did next completely stopped me in my tracks. She asked me what I wanted his consequences to be. Wait, it never occurred to me that I would be deciding his fate. I figured there'd be some kind of policy or procedure or something in this kind of case. So I was completely unprepared to tell her what I wanted. I mean, after all, this wasn't exactly the kind of thing I would necessarily want somebody arrested for, but it also certainly was not something that could be ignored. So I went back to talk with my partner about it, and he was adamant that this guy should be kicked out of this event and completely kicked out of our community altogether. And part of me thought that sounded pretty good. But another part of me wasn't entirely sure. For the second time that night, I was being asked what it was that I really wanted. What would feel good to me? And what I knew for sure was that I wanted that guy to know that he had violated me and that he had broken the rules of the party, and I wanted him to never touch me again. But what I also realized was what I wanted most was to know that I was part of a community, an entire community, that was committed to a true practice of consent. And what I realized was when people are learning consent, we have to figure out how to address those kinds of consent violations without simply exiling someone for not doing it right, without at least an opportunity to learn from their experiences and from their behavior. And so in the end, I realized that I thought it was best if he stayed in our community and our community held him accountable for his actions. Because I think I fundamentally believe that it is in community with other people where we are going to truly practice and learn how to do consent. Just like it is in community with others where I learned and continue to learn to find my voice.